program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. Hope you all had a good week. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about, but it's really only one thing we're talking about. Right now, we're only a few weeks away from the election finally being over. Now, I don't know if y'all are like me and just ready for this to be over. I went to go vote like every day last week. There's a line, so I'll just wait. I mean, we get like a month to vote here in Georgia, so it's kind of like, I don't need to go the first week. And usually here in Georgia, I mean, even if there's a line, it's not too long. But when it was out the doors, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna wait, because usually I can be in and out in 20 minutes. I mean, it may have been like a 30-minute wait, 40-minute wait. So if I wait till election day, it's usually like there's a lot more polling places open. In my polling place, I was in and out last time I voted on election day. But definitely go vote early if you can. We have to vote early. Get the numbers up there. Definitely go do that. If you're not going to vote, I respect your decision to not vote. In the past, I voted very much on, libertarian principles the last couple of elections after being very disenfranchised from the political system. I was a Tea Party conservative before this, and I just saw a lot of things that didn't happen that I had voted for in those times. So when and it led me to libertarianism. So I get it. Like, I'm not going to come on here and tell you, this is the most important election of our lifetime type stuff. I think that it's been used since the beginning of our founding of our country, and it's generally not that bad. There's really not a huge difference between the two parties. It's just this, I mean, the next 4 years could be very painful. I think if Kamala Harris gets into office, it's just it will be very painful for everybody, mostly for our pocketbooks. I think the inflation, we'll continue to see record numbers of illegal immigrants. We'll see record numbers. We're going to see, high inflation. We're going to continue to see males competing in female sports and children being pushed to transition. And so I don't think the law is really going to change much of that. I think it's the first step in having somebody in the White House that would actually promote, against those types of things. Title IX is the one thing where I think we could see the end of Title IX as we know it. In this, if Kamala wins, males and female sports would be pretty much recognized. It's going to be a harder fight. Same with the children transitioning. I think that it's going away. I think, and as I've said on this channel many times, I actually think it's more the lawsuits, like Chloe Cole's lawsuits and other detransitioners' lawsuits, that is really going to, create the, disincentivize that from happening to children. So this is one of those elections where I'm going to go ahead and y'all know I've already said I'm voting for Donald Trump in this election because it just makes sense for me. It's what's right for me. But I'm not going to be one of these people that comes out here and says, voting for a third party is a vote for the left. No, or not voting. I mean, not voting is voting. It just means that none of the candidates hold your value. So I respect people that don't vote. I respect people that vote for third parties. It's just not what's right for me in this election timeframe. Also, if you guys have been watching out here for a little while, I I did something I don't do a lot, which I want to do a little bit more this week. I put out another video. I put out a I put out a I put out a video this week that about the whole Josh Cedar situation. It's an interesting. I think there's a lot that's really interesting that's been happening even since I put that video out. You know, a lot of the radical feminists have actually been turning their back on Josh, especially after he went on who is it, Christian Tate's podcast. And if you don't know, the Tates are, you know, I think they were indicted for human trafficking charges and prostituting of minors, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but the indictment's very indicative, and so the people that are like were fawning over him, like it's like Josh is doing all this stuff now, and he's still like, you know, in the video on Alex Stein, he lashed out at Buck Angel. Like, none of us, like, we can be mad that, you know, Josh is seemingly attacking all trans people, even though, you know, we don't act like. The thing is he keeps saying, if you believe that you're, you know, if you're a male and and you believe that you can be a woman, then that's who he's against. But that's not in line with what he's, you know, with where he's at and what he's saying. He's seemingly attacking all trans people. So there's that. But go watch that video, because I do think that there's some interesting stuff in there that's not being talked about. I would like to see people ask him some of these questions, because like I said in the video, it's giving scorned ex-lover. Josh was in a relationship with a trans person before all this. He was the left, and I just think that this is kind of a continuation of his grift there, and now he's just going hardcore the other way. And I think he might be on the path of, you know, even possibly trolling the right for how easy it is to, I guess, go after, how easy that the right will accept you if you go after trans people. But I don't know. I mean, I know Tim Pool and Timcast team has a film crew with Josh as he's going through a lot of this, I guess. So we'll see what they come up with where they're at with this. I don't trust Josh at all. I think he's been rage posting about trans people for like the last week or so now, after, you know, coming out as this. So it's not giving very authentic vibes to me, and I just yes, actually, Grasshopper, you're absolutely correct. Grasshopper says everything about Josh Green's grift, and I have no impression of sincerity about this supposed support for women. His generalization of trans people did not help either. Complete tool. Yeah, that's the thing, is a lot of the women who have been fighting trans ideology, who were willing to, you know, talk to Josh and would have been the ones that he was supposedly trying to protect, have now started to be like, you're not trying to protect women. You're just trying to, you're attacking the women that are questioning stuff about you. And it's very, I mean, it's giving very, I don't know what's the right word. It's just very irrational posting that he's doing. He's just like, if you question him at all, it's attack. He's attacking everybody. And so it's just not giving, you said, it's not very authentic. That's what it is. That's the word. You're absolutely right. It's unhinged. It's just unhinged posting about everybody and everything on Twitter. If trans or you know, women who are questioning him, like, it's just giving completely unhinged vibes. And Josh has had mental health issues in the past that he's supposedly, you know, opened up about before there was a death hoax about him. And so it's just yeah, just like asking people if they're mentally stable and such. He was not ready for the aftermath of his big reveal. Yeah, he was expecting that. He did this. He was very smug on with Alex Stein. He thought he was so proud of himself, the way that he was acting on Alex Stein's show. He was so smug, and then when people started questioning him, he is giving very unhinged vibes. He's been, like I said, he's been rage posting for like the last week. It's really interesting to watch. But I did that video, put it out. It's out on my channel now. Put it out on Thursday, so go check it out. I don't want to continue to labor that point because I did a full video on it, but it's just that's the updates from this week. It's been kind of funny to watch. Going into, now we haven't talked about this on this show, but this has kind of been something that's been happening. It's been going on for a few months now. I think a few months now. So this article, the Tulsi Gabbard shows support for University of Nevada Wolfpack women's volleyball team after protesting game against San Jose State over trans player. Now, if you haven't been watching this story, so San Jose State University, SJSU, they have a trans person on their volleyball team. Other universities' volleyball teams have been forfeiting because of this trans player. And we've talked about this before. It's unfortunate that, these girls, they have to do this. But it's nice to see that the universities are now having their back. Like that's what we're seeing here is the universities are not canceling these women's scholarships for protesting games. It's the entire teams and their coaching staff and their universities who are taking the stance against trans women and or males and female sports. And that's a good thing, because part of the reason why it was so hard, it's seemingly been so hard in the past for this to gain any traction, is because it was three young women who were taking the stand and putting their entire career in jeopardy. They were putting their scholarship in jeopardy. They were putting their future in jeopardy. And so it was taking a lot for those young girls to actually do this. And it's sad that, these, 18 to 22-year-old young females who are just wanting to, get a college education for, get it paid for by playing, because they're good at a sport, by just and they can't, they're the ones that were putting on this. They're having to be the adults in the room, like not the NCAA, not all these other sports organizations. It's these young females who have to be, the adults in the room. We had, middle schoolers that have to be the adults in the room and say that this isn't fair for that to get attention. It's sad that that's what's been having to happen. That, even though 70-something% of the population disagrees with males and female sports, this is what has to happen. But good for them. Good for all these other schools and organizations. You know what? Let San Jose State win the national championship, because every other team has forfeited against them. Yeah, that'll look great, right? No. Let's let them have it, though. I think that's where let every other school take a stand against this, and maybe it'll stop. Maybe the unfairness will stop. Now, on that same note, there is another interesting news story that happened, and it's actually with the UN. The UN is now calling for a female-only sports categories after women athletes lose 890 medals to trans opponents. This is in Human Events. My good friend Katie Davis Court wrote this, or colleague Katie Davis Court wrote this. So the new study revealed that trans-identified biological men competing in women's sports has resulted in the loss of 890 medals by over 600 female athletes across 29 different sports, although experts said the numbers are likely much higher. Now, remember, this is one of those things where the trans activists will come out and say, it's not happening, or it's not like males are just taking over female sports. It's not happening that much. It's like, so what's the difference if what if like one what does it matter if this happens and if it's one trans person in this sport? But obviously it's not just 890 is a lot. 890 is a lot. So she says the shocking data comes from a recent report published by Reem Al-Salem, the U.S. Special Report on Violence against Women and girls, who issued an official recommendation of banning men from competing in women's sports. The report was presented to the UN General Assembly on October 8th, which included a plethora of written and in-person evidence. She advised that there needs to be protected female-only category to ensure safety of female athletes and fairness at all levels, reported by Sex Matters. So that's good news, right? So you have one UN official trying to actually do the right thing, exposing how big of an issue this actually is. Let's see if the UN actually changes something. Let's see they're calling for female only sports. And this is one of the reasons why for so long if you've watched me, I'm very particular with the words I use. I use male, I use female for specific reasons, because if I were to say women's sports, then it gets to be then you're arguing over language. Because trans activists will say trans women are women. Now we know that's not true. Trans women are trans women, biological males. So to use the term female only sports or female sports has always been what I've kind of used, and for this reason, because they need to be female sports. You can't erase a biological advantage when you take hormones. I've been on hormones for coming up on 6 years now. It'll be 6 years this spring, and I still have a biological advantage, and I can tell you that because I'm a male and I've been athletic my entire life. I can tell you that I still have a biological advantage, and I see it every day when I'm in the gym. And I mean, it was last year that I was doing the to break the raw squat record, and I had a previous injury flare up because I'm not as young as I used to be. But and I've also was served in the Army and just beat my body to, beat it up. My body's pretty beat up. So even after that, though, after 4 months, I would have broken, or I would have won all of the competitions that I would have entered. I was looking at the recent scores, and they were all like 205 would have won, and I was squatting 205 pretty regularly. The record would have been 285, and I would have been able to, I would have I was lifting 305 off the rack, and only doing like 3-inch squats with it, but it's 305. It's even higher than the record was, and not nearly a full squat. But if I hadn't injured my hamstring again, I think I'd be doing it today. I think I would probably have broken the record already. So, and I'm not somebody who used to ever squat or anything like that. And so I still have a biological advantage, just like all other males who transition. Like you don't lose that advantage. No matter how long you're on hormones, you don't lose that advantage. And it's really going to take, that's the problem, is all these athletes, these trans athletes they don't care what impact they have on the trans community. They don't care what impact, they don't care that it's unfair, because they think it's unfair to them, but it's not. It's not unfair to them that they made the choice to transition, because yes, having gender dysphoria is not a choice, but the choice is to transition, and that's fine. You're an adult, make the choice the same way I did. But also you have to understand that not everything's going to be fair. You're not going to be able to compete in female sports because you know, are a trans woman and have female hormones, are now female dominant in the hormone range. Your body still does it. Yeah, the victim mentality is it's a narcissistic victim mentality type that they had. They feel entitled to compete in female sports, and they feel that if you don't let them, then you are, invalidating who, you're invalidating to them. But let's hope that the UN they'll actually listen to this official. Let's listen, hopefully they can, they'll actually listen and they'll make the changes that are necessary. Because once it's like we see, once the dominoes start to fall, once people actually start to speak out, we saw it happen in with the CAST review and the Tavistock Clinic for transition kids. Once the dominoes start to fall and people start to actually see what's actually going on, then things start to change. Okay. This one I'm just gonna hit real quick because it just happened, but we already know is that an independent commission determined Secret Service failures created conditions for first Trump assassination. I think that we've beat that horse to death on here. We know how the Secret Service. I mean, we've talked about it almost every week on here because something new comes out, but so it's not really a news story but now the independent commission has in fact determined the Secret Service failures created the conditions on the ground. Now, another kind of update story when we look at this ABC debate that when they tried to fact check Donald Trump on the FBI crime stats, when Kamala Harris tried to say that crime is at an all-time, or crime is at a lower point. It might even been an all-time low. I don't know exactly what she said. And Trump said we have a rising crime data increased. Well, they fact checked that because the crime data that we had, and I think the latest year that they have it complete for is 2022. The issue is that we've talked about this before, is that the LAPD and New York, so the NYPD, they haven't given their data. So two of the highest crime rate ridden areas never gave their data to the FBI to put in the crime stats. So it's been incomplete data that everybody's been citing. And so we just don't know. We don't know what those crime stats are in those areas and if it's actually getting better or worse. It seems like it's getting worse just from watching, the news and following along. And me being a news writer for, a year and a half during a lot of this, it seemed like the crime was going up. But that's just perception. We don't know because we're always online and we never were always online. So perception is not necessarily reality when we're working with, the age of the internet. So the stats are important to know what they actually say. Are they reporting the stats properly? We don't know. We know that, are they reporting them after convictions or after catch and release or once they've been arrested? There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into what these stats would say. arrests up. A lot of times they go off of the victim of the crime. So if somebody's been, robbed, and then they're trying to they go off the victim. So if somebody's been murdered, they would go off of, there's been this many murders this year, not necessarily how many people are involved in those murders. But the FBI quietly revised its data and revealed that crime has actually increased. And they really didn't say why. They just, and ABC, yeah. So the updated statistics reveal that there were 80,000 more violent crimes in 2022 compared to the previous year, including an additional 16 or almost 1,700 murders, almost 8,000 rapes, 33,000 robberies, and 37,000 aggravated assaults. So there was more violent crime. And so when ABC fact checked Donald Trump, ABC was wrong now. Shocker. But let's get to the news. I want to start off with this. I want to show there's a lot kind of again happening here. Now, y'all know I went up to North Carolina a few weeks ago. My article, if you're on my Twitter account, my pinned tweet, go read my article, share it with your friends. You can see it's my full report of what I saw when I was on ground in North Carolina. It's an op-ed I wrote in Human Events, how the government failed those and failed the citizens of Asheville. So go check that out. But if you remember, Kamala Harris claimed to be visiting the victims of the hurricane and talking to people on ground. But she went to Charlotte, which is about 200 miles away from Asheville. Now, I wrote this. I complain about this because I say this because she's claiming that she went to see, the devastation and see the victims of the hurricane, but she didn't. In my opinion, it's a good thing that she didn't, because the days that I was up there, what that does, so like when President Biden flew over the area, it grounded all flights in the area. It grounded all these rescue flights. It grounded, the civilian operators that were out there doing what needs to be done. But today, President Trump went out there to see what they were doing and talk to the people on ground. I saw a video of from Adam Smith. I think that's what his name. Adam Smith, who was running the Fob Savage, where I reported from the first day. If you see any of my content from there, that's who was running it from that day. And former Green Beret, and he met with Donald Trump today as well. He was here for this, and so here's what Donald Trump said today.
It's the power of nature. Nothing you can do about it, but you got to get a little bit better crew in to do a better job than has been done by the White House. It's been not good. Not good. I'm here today in Western North Carolina to express a simple message to the incredible people of the state. I'm with you, and the American people are with you all the way. We're going to continue to be with you. We'll see what happens with the election. And we're on January 20th, you're going to have I think, a new crew coming in to do it properly and help you in a proper manner. To every family that lost loved one or a loved one, this terrible storm, we ask God to give you strength and comfort and peace. You will have comfort and peace. It's been a terrible ordeal, and this area was hit about as hard as anybody's ever seen. To all those homes, and your homes have been destroyed. Many of you are rebuilding, and many of you are going to just start all over again. And the communities were ravaged and destroyed. We're praying for you, and we will not forget about you. We will never forget about you. We're going to be working with you for a long time to come to get it back together. When I'm president, I will stand with you and till the communities are fully rebuilt. Every single inch of every property will be fully rebuilt, greater and more beautiful than it was before. You're going to have better. What happened to this neighborhood and the communities all across North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Virginia, Tennessee was an act of absolute devastation. Helene's vicious floodwaters tore wives from the arms of their husbands, mudslides buried the entire families and buried entire families. Grandparents died alongside their grandchildren. Homes, towns, farms, roads, bridges, schools throughout the region. They now lie in ruin. So beautiful, an area, so beautiful it was. But it'll be more beautiful. But you can never forget the death. The death. All of America shares your sorrow and your grief over the past few weeks. This region has seen an extraordinary hardship, but in the midst of such terrible tragedy, we have also seen the extraordinary love that binds us together as Americans. And it does indeed. I want to thank our great first responders. They've never let us down. This was a tough one, but they never let us down. And the emergency personnel who leapt into action with such great heroism, including the incredible firefighter and his nephew who lost their lives trying to save their neighbors. A lot of heroes really developed with this. They'll be talked about for a long time to come. They will not be forgotten. Thanks also to the many wonderful charities and service organizations that have uh, become so familiar to so many. The burden of the response has been incredible. In the wake of this horrible storm, many Americans in this region felt helpless and abandoned and left behind by their government. And yet, in North Carolina's hour of desperation, the American people answered the call much more so than your federal government, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean he's right. We talked about it when I got up there and came back. Now this is what I expect from the federal government, though. I think that civilian organizations tend to come together. This is the type of thing that brings people together, brings citizens together. This is something that we shouldn't be playing politics on. It shouldn't be something that we should we should all be coming. We should actually all be coming together for this. Now, I do think that the military, if they weren't serving overseas and all over the world, they would be much better prepared than FEMA to handle a lot of these disasters. And I think that really that's what they should be doing rather than serving overseas. But in this case, it's always going to be citizens that come together to handle this. And I'm glad he went out there. I think that it sounds like from what Adam's post, it was a great visit for him to see what they're doing on ground, and see what's happening on ground with the people up there, and hearing the stories from the people firsthand. It's going to be interesting because this area it's an interesting area if you've ever been to if you've never been there, because Asheville City is actually kind of like it's I don't want to call it a progressive town. It's more of a liberal town, more of a liberal hippie town. I love Asheville, and I'm saying that as endearing because I do love Asheville. I think, but it is going to be interesting to see how they sway in this election, to see how they viewed what happened up there. And the problem is how are some of these people even going to be able to vote in this election? And we don't know how they're handling that either. But I think that was a very good speech that Trump gave. It was at the right time to go up there, to where it wasn't in the heart of the devastation and the cleanup effort, and it wasn't a distraction. It was there, and he gave great words, the best words, right? No, I think it was a good statement, good speech, and it was, yeah. So who was it said? Yeah, grasshopper. Trump does this much better than she ever could. I think that's true. Now let's move on to the big story this weekend. Donald Trump starts his job at McDonald's. So here it is. This is actually his post. So,
and I've always wanted to work at McDonald's. I never did. I'm running against somebody that said she did, but it turned out to be a totally phony story. So, President Trump, well, that's a good-looking group. Hello, everybody. I'm having a lot of fun here, everybody. I'm looking for a job, and I've always wanted to work at McDonald's. I never did. I'm running.
No, yeah, you're right. He's just really good with people. He's not pretending. He's giving authentic vibes. Like he goes and he looks like he's having a blast, and people love it. It was a, like you said, yes, Robbie Thurman says this was a ninja level troll. I think it was true. But the left has kind of melted down. They've lost their minds over this. So it's really, really crazy to me now, because so here's one report. So if you think about this, I mean, Newsweek, it's Newsweek. Newsweek has been having a go of it the last couple of days. Like it seems like they're just like melting down. It's almost like they lost all objectivity, and they don't like they're reporting these stories, and this is pretty bad when you have to report these kind of stories because there's nothing else for you to try to smear Trump over. They were the first ones to be like, social media rumors say that Donald Trump, the McDonald's that Donald Trump worked at for the day was actually closed, and all of the people that were coming to the window were his supporters and they had rehearsed it. Yes, of course. I forget who it was said, yeah, they wouldn't want, you wouldn't have Donald Trump standing in a McDonald's. One second. You want to have Donald Trump standing in a one second. In a McDonald's window when they've tried to, they've attempted to assassinate him twice now. Sorry. They tried to assassinate him twice now. Sorry, I had to let somebody in the gate. Okay. Went through. So yeah, I mean, if you think about this, and then you see what they're putting out on the Palmer report. It says the real proof Donald Trump's dementia is that he let his handlers do this to him today without pushing back about what a humiliating idea it was. Excuse me. Why is it humiliating to do the job of somebody that's a service worker that's working at McDonald's? Now think about this. Because they keep saying this is really just telling you what they think about the working class. This is the elitism. It's not humiliating to go in there and do the job of somebody of a fry cook at McDonald's. It's an honorable job, and somebody needs to do it. And so why is it humiliating that he would go in there and put an apron on and get his hands dirty? Yes, you're absolutely right. They forgot they don't want you to know that they hate the working class and have no respect for them. No, they think that they are better than the people that are working at McDonald's. They think it's a humiliating job. That's what they're saying in this idea. And then other people, when I bring this up, people would say, no, what's humiliating, they would say, they're trying to make it seem like he's making fun of them, or, by doing this. And no, that's not what he's doing. He's actually going to see what the process is, right? Because people are like, because he said something about McDonald's fry cooks, and then they come in and they say, and so they, he is talking about this, and then they were like, it's a lot harder than it looks, and so he went and did it, firsthand. It's an honorable thing to do, not humiliating. But yes, so that happened. And then this week we had the Al Smith dinner in New York, which, if you didn't watch this, there were some pretty good moments in this. And now, if you don't know what the Al Smith dinner is, it's a dinner that all presidential candidates generally go to, and been a tradition. So it's been a long tradition for both candidates running for president to attend, and it's generally a rule: you go to the dinner, right? That's what Donald Trump said. But Vice President Harris could not be there. Instead, she sent a pre-taped recording, and that actually got boos from those in the audience. Now, the Al Smith dinner is it's a Catholic charity event, and the Catholic crowd is now leaning Trump. It's really interesting, and there was some good roast. Donald Trump did he roasted pretty good. I'm not gonna play that one. Let me see. Where is it? I don't know if they have it on here. There was one. Oh, this was a good one. So, and not even just talking about Kamala Harris, talking about her running mate. So,
but unfortunately, Governor Walz isn't here himself. But don't worry, he'll say that he was. He's going to say he was.
Making fun of the stolen valor and the slip ups, and says, Tim Walz isn't here, but don't worry, he'll say he was. After saying that he was in Tiananmen Square when that happened, and all this other stuff he's lied about, his stolen valor he's lied about. Took a shot at Kamala Harris's husband, Doug. Said don't let him get anywhere near the nannies. There was one, and like I said, he made fun of getting shot at. I just don't see points in taking shot at myself when they've been shooting at me for a hell of a long time. That was a good joke. Where's the one? I don't think. Yeah, they didn't have it on here. There was one that it was like it was talking about the white dudes for Harris, and they were talking about he was like, there's this white dudes for Harris stuff, but they're supposedly voting for Kamala Harris, and but don't worry, their girlfriends and their girlfriends' boyfriends are voting for me. So it was a savage joke. It was funny. I appreciated it, but he wasn't the only one roasting. Now again, so if Jim Gaffigan tends to be pretty right-leaning, and he hammered Kamala Harris pretty good for not being at the event, and so he had a
has been referred to as the Catholic Met Gala. 22% of Americans identify as Catholic. Catholics will be a key demographic in every battleground state. I'm sorry, why is Vice President Harris not here? I mean, consider this. This is a room full of Catholics and Jews in New York City. This is a layup for the Democratic nominee. I mean, in her defense, I mean, she did find time to appear on The View, Howard Stern, Colbert, and the longtime staple of campaigning, the Call Her Daddy podcast. President Biden couldn't be here tonight. The DNC made sure of that. That's... I guess I'm the only one that reads history. The media has begun discussing the phenomena of secret Trump voters. I don't know if you've heard about this. People who publicly say they would never vote for Trump, but then when they go in the voting booth, they do. It's a small group. They're called the Biden family.
That's not the only one that he put out. I want to put this one. This is actually a really good one too. Here, calling him out.
Democrats have been telling us Trump's reelection is a threat to democracy. In fact, they were so concerned of this threat, they staged a coup, ousted their democratically elected incumbent, and installed Kamala Harris. In other words, all her dreams have come true. Really? It really makes you consider the power of prayer, right, Cardinal? Sometimes prayers take 3.5 years and a George Clooney op-ed. Yeah. The Democrats have been telling us Trump.
Yeah, I mean, calling him out. Like I said, Jim Gaffigan he's not a super right-leaning conservative, but here we are. And then there's Trump and who is it? That is Chuck Schumer. God, I'm drawing a blank on that. That is so him, Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer schmoozing at the dinner, at the dinner, you know, having a conversation. I mean, I didn't think you were supposed to have conversations. If you're a Democrat, you're not supposed to have conversations with Donald Trump, and it seems to be a pretty good conversation. I mean, who knows if they're talking shop, what they're talking about, but it seems to be a friendly conversation, which Chuck's not supposed to have. Chuck's not supposed to have those. But it's interesting, you know, we see the differences here too. So Kamala doesn't show up to this event. Now let's play the difference here. So when a audience member at a JD Vance's rally, this is what happens. It says, the audience member yells, "Jesus is king."
Anti-Christian rhetoric and anti-Christian approach to public policy. I don't think that's right. Jesus is king. And I don't think that we've seen.
So that's how JD Vance responds to Jesus is king. And this is how Kamala Harris kicks somebody out of her rally for saying it.
Christ is king. Jesus is Lord.
She says, "You guys are at the wrong rally," when he says Jesus is Lord. Now, there's the whole thing where they changed the words because, you know, those on the very far right, the Nick Fuentes types, the anti-Semitism had been getting brought in when people would say Christ is king, right? So that had become a trope of the far right. So the regular Christian said Jesus is Lord, or Jesus, using Jesus instead of Christ, and just changed the words up a little bit. She kicks him out and says, "Y'all are at the wrong rally." And then there's this video. Let's play this.
Right now, I know what you're speaking of. I want the ceasefire.
I
But what
want
about the
justice
genocide?
still
We're
done.
gonna have to
I
ask
want
her to
the
leave.
war to
What
end,
about the genocide?
and I respect your right to speak, but I am speaking right now.
Yeah.
So
2,000 people dead. 19,000 children are dead. 19,000 children are dead.
So, listen, what he's talking about, it's real. And so that's not the subject that I came to discuss today, but it's real, and I respect his voice. So listen, here we are.
So she's trying to play both sides of the fence. Now she's excluding all the Christian voters. And like as Jim Gaffigan said, the Jewish voters in New York. And now she just agreed and said that Israel is committing genocide, and yet we're funding Israel's we're funding Israel in what she is now saying is a genocide. So she is knowingly supporting the president of the United States, Joe Biden, in funding what she's calling it, what she agrees is a genocide, which is really interesting. So she says that it's real. So again, yeah, she's saying that that's what's going on. So now she's taking the pro-Palestine approach to things. And so again, this is the whole, she's taking both sides so that she's never wrong. So she's trying to get all those college kids that are protesting Israel, the pro-Palestinian protesters, as well as trying to court the Christian and Jewish vote. Yeah, she can't, because, and then that's why she didn't go to the Al Smith dinner. But it's also the reason why Jewish voters are ditching Dems and giving the lowest support since the Reagan era, according to the Manhattan Institute. And it's exactly this reason. And this is what you're going to see the Catholic vote do the same exact thing to the Democrat Party, because the Jewish and Catholic, because the Democrat Party is now placating to, it's really interesting. The Democrat Party is starting to placate to the Muslim vote, but the Muslim mayor, is it of Hamtramck, I believe? Or is it even Dearborn? The Muslim mayor in Michigan of one of those two cities endorsed Donald Trump for president too. So it's really interesting to see that take place too. But yeah, the new poll from the Manhattan Institute revealed that across the United States, Jewish voters, although they mostly align with Democrat parties, are on track to give Kamala Harris the lowest support for Democrat since Ronald Reagan was running for president. It's not the only demographic that is leaning away from Kamala Harris. When you have let me see. You have, where is it? I had it in here. Because now you have Barack Obama chastising black men for seemingly supporting like this audio went off, for supporting Kamala Harris, or for not supporting Kamala. So I had to restart this 1 second. Here you go.
Go ahead and just speak some truths, if you don't mind. We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout as we saw when I was running. That seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to you all directly. When you have a choice that is this clear, on the one hand, you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles, pain, and joy that comes from those experiences. Who's had to work harder and do more, overcome, and achieves the second highest office in the land, putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities, from housing, cares about things like education. And you're thinking about sitting down? And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, I'm speaking to men directly, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming.
So he went on, and actually, I mean, give it up for, who was it that I saw the other day? It was somebody, who was it? Sports broadcaster who was talking about this. When, I mean, he was chastising Obama right back, and he was saying, don't act like this. Don't try to call men out like this. Don't call out the black men like this. He's like, and this is somebody who is very open about that they are voting for Kamala. So Biden's not talking to him. Oh, Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith. I mean, go listen to that. It's like a 10-minute rant about why Obama's off base here in the way that he's talking. It's not, to claim that. And here's the thing. So he's talked about these concrete ideas that Kamala has put out for the community. Well, guess what? She put out all this stuff that would have violated the Civil Rights Act, would have violated the Equal Protection Clause under the 14th Amendment, if it was only open to Black people or any group, if it was just designed for one single group. So she put out all these policy positions. These will create opportunity for agenda for Black men. And then she comes out and says, it's an opportunity agenda for Black men, but it's open to others as well. So then why even label it the way that you did? This is the thing is, I think she knows that she is losing that vote. And we see it when we have former NFL player Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown campaigning for Trump in Pennsylvania at the Steelers rally. You have legendary boxer Thomas the Hitman Hearns joining President Trump in Detroit. You even have MSNBC interviewing just regular veterans on the street.
It's down the drain. It's down the drain because of our government and who's running the government.
You think it's time for a change?
It's time for a change. Go back to Donald J. Trump. Feels this country's down the drain.
I mean, even MSNBC ran it. And I mean, maybe, just maybe, that's why Kamala Harris, the joy is gone. The joy
Should never
is gone.
again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again. Never again. Never again.
She seems angry. That doesn't seem, I mean, the joy is gone. I mean, I'm telling you, she's now seems angry and not joyful at all. And maybe it has to do with the Fox News interview that she did last week, right? With Brett Baier. She doesn't know what she's talking about. This is what happens when she goes on Fox News. Here you go.
Frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what
Nobody
I'm
knows
talking
what you're
about.
What
talking
are you
about.
talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than
People are
70%.
Nobody knows what you're talking about. He's right. The country is in the wrong track, and you've had 3.5 years to fix it, and you haven't done anything. You've actually made it worse. We're on the wrong track. And because Donald Trump's been running for president, guess what? What is it? I saw something since Democrats have held office for 12 of the last 18 years or something. What is I'm not doing, I don't have the math. It was the 8 years of Obama and the 3.5 years of Biden. Yeah, like almost 12 years of, you had 8 years of Bush, and then you had 4 years of Trump. So, and then you had, before Bush, you had 8 years of Clinton. So when you look at how, Obama got into office in 2008. You have 8 years there, and then you have 4 years of Trump, and then 3.5 years of Biden. Democrats have held the office for most of my life at least. And and they've held office nearly my entire adult life. 4 years is the only time that Democrats were not in office. And so to say something about this is not your fault, Donald Trump years were good other than 2020. And that's the biggest issue I have with COVID. Nobody knows what you're saying here. You don't even know what you're saying. Makes no sense. And maybe that's why she's angry. She's feeling it slip away. I just want to bring up this last story from Libercrat. It says recent post made by Sophia Patel, the head of operations for the UK's Labour Party, on social media, stated that over 100 members of the UK's Labour Party are involved in the US election, specifically supporting and helping Kamala Harris' campaign. Sounds kind of like election interference from a foreign entity, wouldn't you think? This has raised serious concerns over compliance with U.S. election laws, which strictly prohibits foreign nationals from contributing to or participating in any U.S. election activities as outlined in the 52 U.S. Code 30121. Citizens are urged to stay vigilant and report any suspicious activities to their local authorities. If anyone has any more information on Sophia Patel or the UK Labour Party, please reach out to us immediately. So she said in one, I have nearly 100 Labour Party staff, current and former, going to the U.S. in the next few weeks ahead of the North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. I have 10 spots available for anybody that wants to go. I'm planning a trip for Labour Party staff to help our friends across the pond elect their first female president. If you worked for the Labour Party during the general election now and have now left but are interested, please drop me an email. Wait, hold on. Jack Posobiec raised a very good point with this. If this was Russia, what do you think? We already know. You would be having committee hearings. You would have the FBI. You'd have everybody investigating these operations, and it would be Russia. Russia's interfering with U.S. election, but because it's the UK Labour Party, nobody really is really worried about this. This is election interference by a foreign government. I don't care what government it is. If you don't care about this, it's just astounding that she thought she could just put this out there and nobody would notice. Thank God people are noticing. But you have a foreign entity out here interfering in our election, and the Congress isn't saying anything about it. Nobody's doing anything about it. There's no difference between the UK doing this and Russia doing this. There's no difference. Period. I don't care what country it is. It violates election law here in the US, and hopefully hopefully somebody does something about this. This isn't something that is allowed to happen. It's not allowed. It's not allowed in our system. So, anyways, y'all, thank you so much for joining today. Like I said, if you saw my video last week, hoping to do some more videos like that on different stuff. Get back into doing regular content creation videos. I actually set up my studio, so it's a lot easier for me to film videos like that. And so I can film those videos, and it's a little bit easier. I have different mics and stuff, and it's all good. I'm excited to get back to doing some more of that. But yeah. But anyways, again, thank you for joining, where we are here every Monday. And if you've made it this far, make sure to click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.